I was curious about your one-on-one interactions with people because you've spoken to farmers, you've spoken to people at Monsanto, you've spoken to government regulators, you've spoken to scientists. On a personal level, did you encounter sympathy and understanding where maybe it was even off the record or just a sense that people understood what you were getting at, but it's just this system that people are operating within, so they can't say what they really want to say, or their paychecks or their salaries or their careers are tied to this kind of,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Did you
Yeah.
find a
That's
personal
the
connection?
that's the sort of the age-old question. I think you're getting to the point of is there a moral compass that has shown itself anywhere here? I will say in the other industries and other companies and things that I've written about and covered, it's been much easier, I suppose, to find that secret source inside that internal source or that person who says, Monsanto was pretty locked down. None of the top level officials there have I ever heard one word of doubt. But there have been, I've talked to several people who worked there. There's one family and their father worked there all of his life, and he worked on the manufacturing side and worked with glyphosate and died of cancer, died of non-Hodgkin
At
lymphoma.
a Monsanto worker.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there are a lot of people who sort of are worker bees, I guess, inside Monsanto, who certainly have their doubts and their concerns and feel horrible about things, but certainly the higher level people and the higher level scientists have never expressed any doubt and
Right.
continue to assert to this day that there is no cause for any problem with
So
their.
they're a global company.
So Monsanto is actually now, but yes, they had global operations all around the world. They were the largest seed company in the world. They bought up most of the independent seed companies and really became a global agricultural giant, influencing agricultural practices around the world. But they originated in 1901 with food ingredients and industrial chemicals. They were a player in the Vietnam War, helping produce the chemicals for Agent Orange. They were involved in PCB manufacturing. So they have a long history as an industrial chemical company. But when they moved into agriculture, they tried a bit to get into like the bovine growth hormones to give to dairy cattle to make them produce more milk. That turned out to be a real problem because it created infections and things in some of the dairy cows, and that became a whole issue.
You almost wonder where the line gets drawn from, okay, we have to solve a problem that the world needs solved, crosses over into, well, let's just make money. Sure, let's get into dairy. Because we are told that, and you do hear a kind of counter argument. Well, would you rather have a few people die of cancer or the whole world starving to death? We're like, we're feeding the world. So they're admitting it. On the other hand, they're kind of saying, yes, we admit it, but it's the lesser of two evils.
So there's a lot of ways to answer that or discuss that, I guess. So first
Yeah.
of all, there are a lot of people dying from cancer. 600,000 people approximately in the US every year die from cancer. 40% of men and women in the US are expected to get cancer in their lifetimes.
It's
This is
insane.
according to our National Cancer Institute. Childhood cancers are on the rise. Our National Toxicology Program has issued report after report after report trying to warn us that environmental contaminants, pesticides, as well as all of these other sorts of chemicals and things that we're exposed to on a daily basis, are driving these rates of cancer.
What agency?
National Toxicology Program, which is part of our National Institutes of Environmental Health Sciences, NIA.
Okay.
So our government scientists recognize this. Scientists around the world recognize that we're basically killing ourselves. We are destroying our
Right.
health and the health of our environment with these environmental contaminants like glyphosate and a whole array of others. The push-pull, of course, is what you alluded to there, what you said directly, that the companies that are selling these chemicals and pushing them out into the world and saying, say there's a higher purpose, you got to feed the world, or we
Yeah.
want convenience, we want to be comfortable, we want everything in plastic because it's easy and convenient for us. You do have to weigh this. What is the pro? What is the con? When it comes to these chemicals and food production, the notion of feeding the world is really not backed by data. It's sort of a propaganda that the chemical industry has built up to be almost believed, I guess, by people who
Right.
don't know better.
Right.
But it is not backed by data. And the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization has made that extraordinarily clear, and they have called for a dramatic decline in pesticide use because of this, and they have documented how false it is to say you need this to feed the world. That people are not starving, you're not seeing a lack of adequate nutrition around the world because you don't have enough pesticide use. You're seeing it for a whole array of other reasons, which are economic and political and deal with infrastructure and income
Right.
levels and all that sort of thing. It's not for a lack of pesticides by any means.
And one of the alarming aspects of pesticide use in our environment is it's so recent. I mean, we're talking about a handful of decades compared to thousands and thousands of years that civilization has existed. Do we even know that we're not damaging the soil beyond repair? I'm talking about for future generations. It's as though we are assuming that no one is going to come after us, that there will be no people that we have to worry about in 500 years. But we're treating the earth and the oceans as though we're the last people that will ever live here. And we are certainly, let me put it this way, we don't have the answers to be able to say without any doubt that we're not harming the soil.
Well, we
Yeah.
do actually have a lot of answers, and I've written
Okay.
about that in my book, and there's a big body of evidence out there that yes, I mean, we are harming the quality of the soil. It's really not debatable. The amount of research out there is pretty profound. Yes, I mean, when you harm the quality of the soil, you make the plants that you're growing there more vulnerable to disease and yield less. And so maybe the farmer does then want, it's a vicious cycle where you pour more pesticides on and then your crops are more vulnerable to disease and so you need some more fungicide, or they're more vulnerable to weeds. Weeds become resistant to the weed killer that you keep pouring on your fields, and so then you have to put more weed killer on there, and the same with insect resistance. And it's
So
really
Monsanto, I mean, they must know that it's beyond a slippery slope. And why do they not care? I mean, on a human level. I mean, I know you probably don't have all the answers, but it seems it seems like they must, like, what do they say? I know they say, well, we're solving the world's hunger problems, but what else do they say when scientists say, hey, the soil could, you could be leading to the infertility of the soil within 60 years?
They deny it. They denied, Monsanto denied that weed resistance would become a problem when they told farmers they could spray directly over their crops with Roundup, with glyphosate-based Roundup. Weed scientists warned that weed resistance then would become a problem and would hurt the soil, and farmers would have to, this was back in the early 2000s. They warned the EPA. They held meetings. They brought EPA inspectors out. They said, please, this is going to be a huge problem. Monsanto said it wasn't until about 2013, and then Monsanto said, oh gosh, yeah, we have over 1 million acres of weed resistance now in the US. And so I guess we're going to have to recommend that farmers use more pesticides now to solve that problem we created. And so they rolled out dicamba in conjunction with glyphosate, herbicides where they could spray two different types of active ingredients at the same time. So I don't think that again answers your question, but
Did the EU take steps to ban glyphosate based on what you told them in those hearings?
well, the European Parliament did then vote to ban glyphosate in 2017, but it's all very interesting. The larger body of the European Commission, when they took the votes by member states, it came down essentially to a tie. And the final vote was to come from Germany. Germany had abstained on voting whether or not they could go forward and reapprove it. The Prime Minister, or Angela Merkel,
Angela Merkel?
I can't even say it, yes, had directed no vote be taken. The ag minister then stepped in at the last minute, and it was all very dramatic, and voted to reapprove glyphosate, but on a very short term. And it was quite a scandal. And so it was reapproved for a short term, but it is now up for relicensing again because it was only approved for that very short term, that 5 years. So they're in the battle again now.
And now it's a partially German company, is that
And
right?
yeah, surprisingly or not surprisingly, in 2018, the German-based Bayer closed on its purchase of Monsanto. So we wonder why the German ag minister
Right.
jumped in to approve that.